We now come to the 10-minute rule motion. The Right Honourable Mark Francois.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to make provision about the regulation of roadworks and for connected purposes. I introduced a very similar 10-minute rule bill in the previous parliamentary session, which unfortunately ran out of time. However, under the heading of the Can the Cones campaign, I'm now seeking to reintroduce similar legislation to help tackle the issue of overrunning roadworks head-on. One of the great frustrations of modern life is queuing for ages in a line of traffic, inching forwards to get through a set of contraflow traffic lights at the scenes of some roadworks, only to then crawl past a large hole in the ground, heavily coned off, with absolutely no one working on the site as you finally drive past it. According to data highlighted by the Echo newspaper, recent Freedom of Information requests showed that during the 2021-22 financial year, there were over 77,000 street and roadworks in my county of Essex, making it the most dug-up county in Britain. But this is by no means an issue confined to Essex. Last week, we had a debate in Westminster Hall on this same subject, ably secured by my honourable friend, the member for Broxbourne, thank you, who I'm pleased to say is one of the sponsors of my bill today, which also had some cross-party support. Last week's debate was also replied to by the Roads Minister, the honourable member for Nottingham South, and I'm pleased to note that she is in her place at the dispatch box, listening to this debate today, as indeed she promised that she would be. So thank you for your courtesy, Master. Roadworks can take place for a variety of reasons. Sometimes utility companies are carrying out repairs or maintenance, or broadband providers laying new fibre, or property developers connecting new estates to the energy grid. In many cases, however, the common denominator is a lack of any palpable sense of urgency whatever to get the job done, regardless of the inconvenience which is caused to the travelling public. As a constituency MP, I've received a growing tide of complaints about the spiralling frequency of roadworks in recent years, with the gas utility company Cadent being by far the worst serial offender. In one of my villages, Hockley, last year, a perfect storm of the above three things occurred and led to so many concurrent roadworks that the exasperated villagers, led by a very proactive local councillor, Adrian Eves, resorted to nicknaming their village Blockley as a result. Given all of this, this bill essentially has three key aims. First, it would give local highways authorities, such as Essex County Council, much stronger powers to control the granting of permits to anyone who wanted to dig up the highway network, which is a critical weakness in the current arrangements. Currently, highways authorities can only really refuse to grant a permit on safety grounds, and if those applying for one deem the work to be an emergency, the ability of the authority to refuse is even weaker still. And I'm sad to report that sometimes people do attempt to game the system. The bill would allow refusal on the grounds of causing unacceptable disruption and would materially strengthen the hand of councils to negotiate much tighter conditions, including stricter deadlines, when granting permits, so that companies would hopefully be prevented from overrunning in the first place. Secondly, the bill would mandate highway authorities to take all practicable steps to deconflict roadworks in their areas to prevent multiple works in the same neighbourhood from leading to near gridlock, especially during peak periods. Under Section 59 of the New Roads and Streetworks Act 1991, local authorities are required to coordinate roadworks to minimise disruption to road users. It states that local authorities should use their best endeavours to coordinate the execution of works of all kinds. Nevertheless, a few years ago we had near chaos in my hometown of Rayleigh, when several sets of roadworks on the main arteries in and out of the town were allowed to proceed at almost exactly the same time. When we subsequently looked into why, it turned out that the official at County Hall who handed out the permits to developers did not communicate with the one who gave them to utility companies. In short, the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing, which led to utter confusion and some very frustrated constituents. The bill would seek to rectify that, ensuring a much more joined-up approach by imposing much stricter procedures on highway authorities that give out the permits, and it would also seek to prevent the same stretch of road from being dug up multiple times in short succession by different companies. Thirdly, the bill would materially increase the fines for roadworks that do overrun. At present, under Section 74 of the 1991 Act, local highways authorities have the power to fine utility companies for unreasonably prolonged occupation of the highway. The fine tariff to be levied is set out in the snappily entitled Street Works Charges for Unreasonably Prolonged Occupation of the Highway, England, Amendment, Regulations 2012. I'm sure the whole House is familiar with them. And they provide for a maximum charge for traffic-sensitive streets of £5,000 a day for the first 3 days of overrun and £10,000 a day thereafter. However, for streets that fall outside that tightly defined category, the fines fall away dramatically. Crucially, the fines have not been updated or adjusted for inflation since 2012. They are hardly likely to be a deterrent to major utility companies or housing developers, some of whom just accept them on the rare occasions they're actually levied as a cost of doing business. The bill would significantly increase the penalties for overrunning beyond the schedule agreed when the permit was first granted. Persistent offenders could be fined up to 10% of their annual corporate turnover, which should make even the most high-handed company sit up and listen. Another related solution is lane rental, not to be confused with road pricing, but whereby companies must pay per day to carry out roadworks. This gives them a clear financial incentive to be efficient, but at present it only applies to a very limited number of selected roads. Perhaps, I might suggest to the Minister, there's scope for this solution to be much more widely applied. I see she's nodding. As an experienced constituency MP, I know it's a rare thing for a 10-minute rule bill to make it onto the statute book. Nevertheless, I hope the government might yet be minded to grant it government time to assist its passage. Failing that, I would be very grateful for a meeting with the Roads Minister so that we can seek at last to can the cones, either through legislation or, at the very least, by strengthening government guidance to highways authorities to achieve the same effect, short of primary legislation itself. In summary, nobody really likes roadworks. They're sometimes a necessary evil of modern life. Nevertheless, the spirit of this bill is to try and ensure that where they are really necessary, we expedite them as quickly as practicable with as little disruption as possible. I promised my constituents when seeking re-election at the general election that if they return me to Parliament, I would seek to reintroduce my Roadworks regulation bill, and I'm keeping my word to them today. This is not a partisan issue. It's something which all members of Parliament, and even more importantly, I hope their constituents, can hopefully agree on. So let us collectively can the cones and keep the traffic flowing as much as we practically can. I commend this bill to the House.
Yeah.
The question is that the Right Honourable Member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Mr Richard Holden, Greg Smith, Mrs Emma Lewell-Buck, Sir Desmond Swain, Andrew Rossendale, Sir John Whittingdale, Lewis Cocking, Sir Bernard Jenkins, Andrew Griffiths, Sir Roger Gale, and Mr Jim Shannon. And myself, Mark.
Yeah.
Right Honourable Mark Francois.
That's how you do it. Some respect for the change.
Roadworks Regulation Bill.
Second reading, what day?
Friday, the 11th of July, 2025.
Friday, the 11th of July, 2025.